Agreed. Okay, look, I know there were a number of councillors that had to leave, and that's no problems at all. So we've got this last particular item, and that's 19, at least substantive. So again, tēnā korua, Dave, rawa ko Mace. So look, what we've done, and it's just for, as you know, we had the workshop. I'm going to move this. Do I have a second? Councillor Fletcher. Oh, sorry, my bad. I should have keep on looking. Sorry. Oh, I thought you wanted to. You need to move. Okay. Yeah. So the option, and again, I'll wait to see if Councillor Fletcher is willing to be second, is actually option number 4 that we've got up there, because option 1. So I'm getting, hold on. Okay. Option 1 is the one that we've got. And I just want to give you some background because it's a chair's recommendation that came through. The reason and it's the modification of option 1 that came to the workshop last Wednesday, last week, whenever it was. So what had happened was I ended up getting calls around the options that were put at the workshop. Option 3 was the one where the money was going to go to active, and all the money, the whole 552. So I ended up contacting RSTs, and I ended up suggesting as a compromise that 40,000 of the 76 goes to active in regards to delivering regional outcomes. As you recall in the workshop, option 1 was basically status quo with the addition of the review year. They had local and regional outcomes being achieved. Option 2 and 3 only had local outcomes. So I ended up contacting the 4 RSTs. That call, my last one was to the one of the CEOs. I've contacted the whole 4 CEOs. They are supportive of Active getting $40,000 to at least deliver on some of the regional outcomes. Those regional outcomes are outlined in the agenda. I also contacted Active CEO, and Jenna ended up obviously not happy with the 40,000. But I said to her was either that, option 3 I felt after the workshop was going to be supported. And I said to her was either 40,000 or you get nothing. She then said, look, okay, that's fine. And I said, the review year, what will happen is that if there's going to be any justification of any increase of that 40,000, the ability in that review year will be up to her to justify any increase to us as the committee. So we ended up coming to that compromise. I've tried to get in contact the majority of our committee in regards to this. To those I didn't, my humble apologies. And so I am putting this up as a compromise where we do achieve regional outcomes. As you can see, B has been put in there from our staff to end up saying that they will work with Active around those outcomes that can be achieved. So look, that's what I put through for us. I think it is a compromise. The 4 RSTs are on board, and I'm really asking for your support in regards to this. So look, I'm going to, I will move the recommendations. Councillor Fletcher, you still second?
Yes, and in seconding this, I realise that it has been controversial, to say the least. I know that you've endeavoured to find equity in this situation. I do think this highlights, and while in the scheme of the debates that we have, this is not such a significant sum of money that we should spend as many hours on it as we do, I think what it highlights for me is the need for us to spend a bit more time in the policy development area and taking our governance responsibilities a little bit more seriously in order that we can give clarity to our officers as to what our intentions are. I, for one, don't want the relationship with Active to be one about the individual personalities of the people involved. I would like to think that we can have a much more professional approach to things, but I do acknowledge, and once I confirmed with you that I don't have a conflict on this issue, and I'm mindful of that, I know that you have actually endeavoured to play Solomon on this occasion, and as such, I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Bletchup. So, Dave, it's now been put on the table for discussion from yourself and or Mace. So I'll leave that to you and then I will open it up. I've got questions already from Councillor Newman at the moment and Councillor Walker. Tēnā koe, Dave.
Kia ora, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for I guess the opportunity to speak to this paper. So the presentation that I provide today is on the basis of the recommendations that are provided within the report. So as slightly different to the Chair's recommendation that you have put up, Mr. Chairman. So I'll just note that from the start. So a little bit of background here, and again, probably quite similar to the last two papers in terms of some of the points that I'm going to bring up. So just bear with me for a moment here. But the investment into regional sports trusts is part of our investment into outcomes under the Auckland Sport and Recreation Strategic Action Plan. So as you may know, the ASARSAP, as we call it, is an important strategic document that helps inform outcomes under the Auckland Plan, and indeed it links into that plan under belonging and participation. So ASARSAP's a sector document, and we work to achieve the outcomes across the broader sport and recreation sector within this plan. So it's not just a council document, but it's one that we share with our partners, such as Sport New Zealand and Active. So the regional sports trusts in general form a really important part of how we do things within the sport and recreation sector. So their role in sort of the modern system is around the development of the sector itself, the sector build, if you like, and supporting capability in particular. So that's sort of the role that they form, and this is where this fits into this portfolio of investment that I've been talking to you about today. So in October last year, and the review was finished in February, there was a review undertaken by the North Harbour Sports Council that identified, I guess, some of the challenges that we face within the sport and recreation sector, and there are a number of recommendations that came forward as part of that review, and we had a workshop of this committee where we heard from the author of that report earlier this year. So this recommendation that we've provided today takes into account a number of the elements that came through into that review of the sports sector, and balances some of the challenges that we've had. So I guess putting some additional accountabilities around the money that we're seeking to invest today, alongside wanting to continue the ongoing development of the sector and move forward positively in terms of our investment. So the three options that we have provided, noting the change that has been recommended through the Chair. The first was investing $552,000 into the group, with Active being the recipient of that, and then them being required to distribute $476,000 of that investment into their community delivery partners, namely Harbour Sport, Sport Waitakere, Sport Auckland, and CLM Community Sport. The intent of that is $76,000 of that investment was retained for them to deliver regional outcomes and their regional work programs, and that's the subject of the Chair's recommendation around the level of investment there. Option 2 was a process that did not include active and involved a expression of interest with the 4 regional partners, in which we would go to them and ask for them to put an application to us for what they could do with the $552,000, and then we would have come back to this committee for an allocation decision in the November meeting around how we would invest into those 4 organisations. And the final option was option 3, around investing $552,000 through active as per option 1. However, the requirement there would have been active retain none of that investment. They distributed it all to their community partners for them to be delivering in alignment with ASARSAP and within the strategies that they have around the community delivery. However, the downside of that was that no regional outcomes, no regional work programs would have been achieved under that option. Consistent across all 3 of these options is the fact that they were for a single 1-year review period, whilst we work to normalise some of the challenges that we're facing within the sector and make sure that we can invest into confidence into our communities through these organisations in terms of their work around sector development and capability in particular. And the second part of it was making sure that we developed really strong and robust KPIs fundamentally around this investment, making sure that we were holding our investment partners, I guess, accountable for delivery under their council investment. So this slide was a quick visual analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of each of the investment options. The option 1 obviously was the preferred option under staff advice here, because it developed the strongest, I guess, strategic alignment delivery of ASARSAP and had both regional and local outcomes. Correct. So it is slightly different to the recommendation from the chair, because the recommendation from the chair has $36,000 less investment into those regional outcomes. The options 2 and 3, I won't go through it in detail, but option 2 required, I guess, significantly more effort, both from a council and a regional sports trust perspective, because it needed an additional contestable process to be run. And option 3 was very similar in terms of process, but was solely into the 4 local or sub-regional regional sports trusts, with no investment being held at the regional level to deliver regional work programs. So my recommendation was option 1 for the reasons I've just outlined, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
So just to reiterate, the option 1 was given to us last Wednesday. The reason I mentioned option 4 when I started that was that my option 4 was going to be that 512 go to the RSTs directly, 40,000 stays with active to at least do regional outcomes. So that's where we are settled now. But there's no option 4. It's modified to say that 512 will go to the RSTs directly, 40,000 will stay with active to achieve regional outcomes. Not all of them as outlined in the paper, but that is a discussion that we'll have. So that's just to be clear. Councillor Newman.
I have a number of questions about the report and then about the way forward. At paragraph 24, it talks about the staff summary of the reporting, including the memo that was presented to the workshop in October 2020, compliance with good and quality reporting. That is not what the North Harbour review report says. The review report says something very, very different. It notes at para 25, Active in the group recently submitted an interim report. Why wasn't that interim report attached to this particular document?
Kia ora, and through the chair. So 2 points that you raised there. Can I deal with the second one first, if that's okay? So the the interim report was provided to this committee through the workshop that we held on the, I think it was the 30th of June. So that has been made available for this committee to be able to review the outcomes and reporting by Active and the Regional Sports Trust Group. It was done through that workshop. In regard to the point made in regard to the North Harbour Sport Council review of the sports sector, so they made some comments around the specificity of the, I guess, the KPIs within the agreement, and that's something that, as I mentioned earlier, was common across all three options in terms of improving the level of specificity that we held within those KPIs to make sure that we were holding our partners accountable for the investment held. So that would be something consistent across all three options as proposed, but we did take that as a point and incorporate that into the recommendations for you today.
Is there anything commercially sensitive in the interim report that was tabled at a workshop but not attached to a public agenda that justifies that information being publicly withheld?
Through the chair, no, I don't think there was anything particularly commercially sensitive within that document. No.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll carry on with my questions. I do reserve my right to speak, but I do think that if a matter is referred to in a report at a workshop, it should be made publicly available via a public item. Sorry, an item and an open agenda at a meeting. With respect to the year ahead, does the year ahead, are you envisaging that Active will renegotiate a relationship agreement with Counties Manukau Sport, which is the Regional Sports Trust in South Auckland, not CLM?
Kia ora, through the chair. So I have been in touch with the Chief Executive of Active and am informed that she has been in touch with the Chief Executive of Counties Manukau Sport and is booked to meet with him on Friday this week, is my understanding. So, yeah, it's certainly my understanding that they are very open to exploring what the relationship with Counties Manukau Sport looks like. In terms of the role that Counties Manukau Sport play in South Auckland, it's potentially a little bit different to the role that say CLM Community Sport play in the community, which is around the sort of sector development capability, working with the I guess the organisations that deliver the regional sports organisations, for example. It's not to say that the work that Counties Manukau Sport do in terms of programming isn't highly valuable. It's probably just a little bit of a different relationship. So my expectation is that there is the opportunity for a really strong relationship there, but in a different context to the relationship that Active has with CLM Community Sport.
So just a final question, Chair. Sorry, CLM is a facilities management company, a private facilities management company, not a regional sports trust. Under that different arrangement, does the funding go to a regional sports trust or a facilities management company?
Kia ora, through the chair. So the funds go to CLM Community Sport, which was an entity essentially established. It's owned by CLM, which, as you say, is a facilities management company and has contracts with council to run some of our pools and leisure centres on our behalf. So they developed a new entity essentially to be able to deliver the same function as a regional sports trust does. Its ownership model and how it delivers that is. Its model of establishment is slightly different to what a traditional regional sports trust is, but in terms of function and performance, it still aligns with what the rest of the network does, not just in Auckland, but nationally as well.
Councillor Walker, and then Councillor Holland for question.
I've got a few questions. The first one, given that we're putting something together here in terms of options that directly affects the regional sports trust, were they given the workshop material or sent this material with maybe any background so that they understand in writing what's involved?
Dave, sorry, Wayne, I'll answer that because I spoke to the CEOs directly. And that is, they knew the information in the report. They, as you heard from Dave last Wednesday, supported option 3, where there was no money going through. That 40,000, the whole 4, the CEOs have said, yes, we will support that. We agree with the 40. So they were made aware of the information in this report.
Okay, my question was not, and this was a question I directed to the officers, not to yourself, Mr. Chair, but whether the officers provided any of the regional sports trusts with this information. You know, have they been sent the agenda item, for example, or anything preliminary to it? I'm just asking the officers, Mr. Chair.
Kia ora, and through you, Mr. Chairman. So I spoke to all the chief executives prior to the workshop that we held on the 30th of June. So they were aware of the paper coming up. No, I have not sent them a copy of the report. However, it is a public agenda, and so they do have access to it should they so choose.
Okay. The other question I've got, and I'm just looking at option 2 here, which is on page 285. And for example, in option 2, it says, you know, invest 552 directly to the Regional Sports Trust. I understand that. Having said that, it says this option only delivers local outcomes. Now, I've just got a question. Is there any reason why the Regional Sports Trust cannot be delivering regional outcomes? For example, the diamond sports are totally within North Harbour. They are more than capable of dealing with that issue regionally because it's domiciled in their area. And is it not possible for the Regional Sports Trust to collaborate?
Kia ora, and through the chair. I think you're referring to some of the items listed within the attachment A that lists some of the regional work programs that would be included with regional investment. So you're right, diamond sport does have a significant footprint within the North Harbour area, but there's also diamond sports that are played in other parts of Auckland as well. So what we were trying to achieve with a regional approach to this investment is in this case around code planning, some thinking that reaches across the entirety of Auckland and doesn't just imagine what could be achieved within, say, the North Harbour area, but could be achieved in the various communities around Auckland. And in some cases, that might be identifying where there's gaps in provision in other parts of Auckland that need to be prioritised for diamond sport development. So hence the idea of lifting it up across the entire region and having a look at what the facility development needs are, what the view is of the diamond sport codes as to how they move forward in terms of the facility development pathway, what their advocacy to council might be around provision there. So I think if we did that solely on a basis of, say, the North Harbour area, which does have a very strong diamond sport code footprint, it may lose some of the opportunities that the regional investment provides.
Could the RSTs do something collaboratively?
Kia ora, and through the chair, I'm sure they could do something collaboratively there. I guess the intent with Active was an organisation that reached across the entire region and was able to do some of that work on a regional basis rather than requiring 4 times the resource, having different regional sports trusts coming together. They will still reach out and engage with the various partners and parties through that process, but the intent was a single organisation to be able to look across the region, just like we have at a council level as well. Kira.
The other question I've got is just around Counties Manukau sport. They're effectively ruled out through this motion. Is it not possible to have some contestability around the allocation of money so that there's still a way open for Counties Manukau sport to participate?
Sure, through the chair. So This investment forms part of a bigger suite of investment into the sport and recreation sector. We've talked about another couple of ways in previous papers today. The intent of this particular piece of the investment puzzle is around the work that is seen as the role of the modern regional sports trust, which is around those sort of elements that we've talked about, around the supporting of the sports sector, the codes, the building capability, providing advice, the support for the development of the regional facilities plans, like we've just mentioned before. Counties Manukau Sport provides a different service to their communities, primarily around lots of really good programming that they deliver. That forms part of other ways that we invest into the sports sector. So it doesn't preclude Counties Manukau Sport receiving investment from Auckland Council. Indeed, they receive investment from local boards in a number of cases. However, that they aren't the natural fit for this piece of the investment puzzle.
Okay.
One other question, Mr. Chair, and
Last
just
one,
around,
Councillor.
it's the last one, and the officers may not be able to answer it. It may be directed to yourself. And that goes to the 552,000. Is it not possible to apply that 552,000 to the RSTs and have the RSTs retain money that might be required for regional sports programs or regional work programs if they can't deliver it?
Short answer, no. And actually that is one of the questions I asked the RSTs and also the CEO of Active. She's obviously willing to work with the RSTs to achieve regional outcomes. That's why B is in there in regards to which regional outcomes she will talk to the RSTs. And so in regards to that, no, RSTs have said to me that for them, they will be working in their own area, not across, so it's still up to Active, and that's what they're going to end up doing. And that's directly from the CEOs of their RSTs. Councillor Mulholland, I don't think there's any other further questions. I'm just having one more scan and then I'm going to go to comments.
Thanks, Chair. No further questions. So does that mean I can wrap up my question with a comment? Because that would be great if I can do it, because it's going straight to comments after.
So then, yep, so what, if you do the questions, and then we'll ask our staff to sit back.
I'll wrap it up into a question. Right, so I'd like to acknowledge, firstly, Chair, thanks. Really, really appreciate the work actually that you've done on this with regards to what you've shared with us in terms of the communications, because we were furnished with all of the information at the workshop and, you know, there were different options. So I just want to acknowledge that you've shared with us what you've done. So thanks very much for that korero that you've had with those organisations. I think that comes down to what we all deem to be relationship building. And that brings me to, obviously, your comment with regards to the CEO of Active in terms of that role. That brings me into the question around the role, the year's review, and to the staff and Dave, it's always been a privilege to work with you at the board. I have absolute faith in what you are doing. I may not always agree with every single thing like all of us, but you've always been a champion at information sharing. So I want to thank you for that, and I have faith that you will, that you listen and will get the right outcomes. But I just wonder about that year's review. What sort of, you know, I know there's normally a robust process, but it sounds to me, and that's just given first term, that, you know, all of these issues that need to be solved, the challenges that needs to be fixed, the changes that we're making to make it much better, who will be responsible for those reviews? How will they manage those reviews? Because as soon as it's cut down to just 1 year, does it mean there's going to be more frequent reviews? Have I missed that in the report? The response to that, was it in the report?
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor Mulholland. Through the Chair, so the intent for the 1 year period was to provide time for, I guess, some healing, if you like, within the sports sector. There has been some fractured relationships, if I'm honest, and I think a year's period does allow some of that time for I guess, the organisations to come together in a positive way and to be able to move forward together. I would have liked to have been able to offer a 3-year option here. There wasn't, I guess, an option that I felt that was pragmatic to do that at this stage, given what the review told us, given the feedback that I had from the workshops that I've had with this committee. So hence offering only those 1-year options within the report. The intent will be for us to monitor, and that will be my responsibility, to monitor, I guess, how things are progressing, to be able to bring updates back to this committee, and ultimately to be able to provide advice early in the year of FY23 about the recommended course of action, which I would like to be multi-year investment back into the sector again, because I do believe it's really important that we can provide as much surety for organisations about the ongoing support that they're likely to receive from council as possible, because that allows them to be able to work with staff, to plan their programming, to know what they're doing more than a few months in advance. So that's the ultimate vision that I have, that I'll be coming back to you with recommendations around multi-year investment, but that'll be after I continue to monitor how the sector is evolving and developing over the next 12 months.
Just supplementary, Chair, just on that. So, Dave, can I ask, is there any opportunity you'll be also able to give, say, a memorandum just to see how things are progressing? Obviously, it's going to take a bit of time, but, you know, will it be able to be in some form like that just to see where we're going? Because you don't want to have individual meetings with 21 people.
Kira, certainly I can provide ongoing updates to the wider committee through memorandums through the year.
Can I just make one comment to that to Councillor Mulholland, is that it was originally 6 months, but I suggested that it not be 6 months, because I think we still need to have a look around how they're getting on mending some of the relationships. So I was just talking to the director here, and we also had a conversation after the workshop, is that, look, let's look at 3 months, or just and it's not a comprehensive report, it's just to see how things are going, hence the memo. I totally agree with that.
Thanks, I agree with that too, because as someone who's been divorced, I know good and well that sometimes relationships take a long time to get back on track.
So look, just to you both, thank you. And so I'm just going to open up for comments, and Councillor Mulholland will be the first, and then Councillor Newman. And then I will close the debate as the mover. So Councillor Walker will be after you, Councillor Newman. So Councillor Mulholland.
Just really wanted to share my thanks. I did want to also acknowledge that Gina did write me an email. I am not comfortable. As I made it very clear in the workshop, I don't want individual relationships. That's not my job. That is your job as a chair. So I am going to be responding to Gina, and I appreciate that she did obviously hear it from someone, certainly not from me, but it's not about me having that relationship with her, it's through you and this committee. So I'll be replying saying thanks, but through the committee, just to be transparent that I did receive an email to me. Thanks.
Bye. Councillor Newman.
Chair, to acknowledge you for your Kissinger-like attempt to broker relationships and healing and peace plans and what have you. I think that I would support only going year by year at this stage, and the reason for that is that this has been a pretty toxic space. And I don't think that the matter has been quite resolved yet. I have to say respectfully, I think that the reporting of this has been quite cheery, but I reflect on the North Harbour commissioned report. I think that report was compelling, and my message to Jenna Wooten, and I am meeting her soon, is my expectation, because I have voted against this particular funding round before, the only councillor to do that if I recall. My expectation is that moving forward in relation to the funding allocation per annum, that the funding allocation to the RSTs will be to Harbour Sport, Sport Auckland, Sport Waitakere, and Counties Manukau Sport, because Counties Manukau Sport is a bespoke regional sports trust. The entity that has emerged in the south is not a regional sports trust. It was the product of a divorce and the need for a new partner to be found at short notice, and it's not optimal. And hopefully, if the odd one out here, Chair, is active. If active is to exist, it needs to exist with the ability to have a mature and constructive relationship with regional sports trusts. If it can't have that, it doesn't have a place. So, Chair, thank you for your negotiations, but the time needs to be taken by active re-establishing its relationship with the regional sports trust and demonstrating its worth in terms of maintaining those relationships. And our officers need to be reporting that candidly, because some of us will be seeking our own advice directly from the RSTs affected. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Newman, and interesting the conversation around CLM, Counties Manukau Sport. It will happen here, but it needs to happen first with active, and that's exactly what the undertaking I got. So yeah, definitely. Councillor Walker, and then I will close the debate.
I'd just like to support the comments that Councillor Newman made. I agree with all of them. I would hope that as a consequence there is an active, and I don't mean active when I say active, I mean a very assertive situation of engagement with Counties Manukau, so that they can be the entity that we're dealing with. And by all means, if they need to engage with CLM, fine, but that is the right way round. Right now things are the wrong way round. I would hope also that there is more emphasis around building capacity in the regional sports trusts by active and devolving more to them if it's possible, because they are the people that are delivering and generating value for money. When it comes to running the programs, making tweaks to the programs that exist on a regional basis, they're the best people to do that because they're on the ground delivering. And they are also the entities that are engaging directly with the multitude of clubs around Auckland. So I see a much stronger role for the regional sports trust than what has happened recently under active. And I would make the observation that I don't think there's another location in New Zealand where you've got an entity like active that is clipping the ticket relative to the regional sports trusts below. And I certainly believe across Auckland that there isn't a one-size-fits-all, and that the regional sports trusts, each in their own areas, delivers programs that are customised for those areas, as much and all as they also meet the needs of the region as a whole. And I'm certainly of a mind, having met some of these regional sports trusts, that they do have the competencies to develop things of a regional nature. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Look, and just to close the debate, Daniel, you and I especially, we a few years ago with active and having a look at the relationship there. So you've been on this journey as long as I have. So I want to acknowledge you, plus also everybody around this table and online. This particular one, yes, I agree, Councillor Newman, is that with this relationship moving forward, let's see what happens. But I think with the money that we currently give, we're going to deal with that very soon when the recommendation is put. I think the other issue that is key for us is that, and Dave was the one that gave me the details, is how much we actually put in as a council to sport in Tamaki Makaurau. I think through CapEx and OpEx. I think David, I recall, was 3.1 billion or 3.2 billion. I think from CapEx up more, see even more. So I think it was 3.4. So look, we are a big player in this game. So I just want to acknowledge you all, say thank you so much. Thank you to all our staff that is dealing with this relationship. So I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you so much. And then last item is item 20. I will move that because, well, there's no moving it. We can just see you later, alligator, now. Yeah, that's item 20. And this is actually quite good that we finish even before 3:30 with our agenda. So thank you to you all, especially our staff behind me and the staff in front. So thank you so much, everybody. And don't forget, we've got to finish off that banana cake. Oh, there's some, oh my God, sorry. Thank you.